Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to our weekly Thursday night program. We will start with, inshallah, Dua Kumayl, and then we'll have speech by Sheikh Amin Rastani on the tafsir of Nahjul Balagha. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to our اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء وبقوتك التي قهرت بها كل شيء وقد عالها كل شيء وضلها كل شيء وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء وبعزمتك التي ملأت كل شيء وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء وبجبر ونور وجهك الذي عضى له كل شيء يا نور يا قدوس يا نور يا قدوس يا نور يا قدوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحت العصام اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقام. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعام. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تقطع الرجاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء. اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك وأستشفع بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك وأن تدنعني من قربك وأن توزعني شكرك وأن تلحمني ذكرك. اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضعا متذللا خاشعا أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني بقسمك راضعا قانع وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا. اللهم وأسألك سؤال من يشتدد فاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته وعزم فيما عندك رغبته. اللهم عزم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكرك وزهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجلت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوب غافرا ولا لقضائه ساترا ولا للشيء من عمل القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك ظلمت نفسي وتجرأت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي، كم من قبيح سترت، وكم من فاضح من البلاء قلت، وكم من نصار وقيت، وكم من مكروه دفعت، وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهلا له نشرت. اللهم عزم بلائي وأثرت بسوء حالي وقصرت بأعمالي وقعدت بأغلالي وحبسني عن نفعي بعد عمالي وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بجنايتها ومثالي. يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك ألا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء عملي وفعالي، ولا تفضحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري، ولا تعجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملته في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وعصاتي ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي وكسرة شهواتي وغفلتي. وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأحوال رعوفا، وعلي في جميع الأمور عطوفا. إلهي وربي من لغيره أسأله كشف ضري والنزل في عمري. إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكمة اتبعت في هوى نفسي ولم أهترس فيه من تزين عدوي. فغرني بما هو وعسده على ذلك القضاء، فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعض حدودك وخالفت بعض أوامرك. ولك الحجة علي في جميع ذلك، ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي في قضاءك وألزمني حكمك وولاؤك. وقد أعطيتك يا إلهي بعض تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي، معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا مستغفرا منيبا مقرا مذعنا معترفا لا أجد مفر مما كان مني ولا مفضعا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في ساعات من رحمتك. اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري وفكني من شد وساقي. يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني، يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني، يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني ورقة جلدي ودقة عزمي. يا من بدا خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي، حبني لابتداء كرمك وصالف برك بي إلهي وسيدي وربي. أتراك معذبي بنارك بعد توحيدك وبعد ما أنت عليه قلبي من معرفتك ولحج به لساني من ذكرك واعتقد ضميري من حبك وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك. هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تضيع من ربيته أو تبعد من أدنيت أو تشرد من عاويت أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيت ورحمت. وليت شعري يا سيدي ولاهي ومولاي أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعزمتك ساجدة وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقة وشكرك ماضحة وعلى قلوب اعترفت من إلهيتك محققة وعلى ضمائر حوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة وعلى جوارها وسعات الأوطان تعبدك طاعة وعشارت باستغفارك مذعنة ما هكذا الظن بك ولا أخبرن بفضلك عنك يا كريم يا رب يا كريم يا رب يا كريم يا رب وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليلا من البلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها إلا أن ذلك بلاء مكروه قليل مكسوه يسير بقاه قصير مدته فكيف احتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجليل قوي المكاره فيها وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه ولا يخفف عن أهله لعنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك وهذا ما تقول السماوات والأرض يا سيدي فكيف بي وأنا عبدك الضعيف ذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي لأي الأمور إليك أشكو ولما من حال الجوع أبكي العليم العذاب والشدة أم لطول البلاء ومدتي فلئن سيرت العقول العقوبات مع أعدائك وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي يا ربي صبرت على غضبك فكيف أصبر على فراقك وهبني صبرت على حر نارك فكيف أصبر على النزل إلى كرامتك أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجائي أفوك فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لئن تركتني ناطقا لأزجن إليك بين أهلها ضجيج العاملين ولا أصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين ولا أبكين عين عليك بقاء الفاقدين ولا أنادينك عين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين يا غياث أعمال العارفين يا غياث المستغيثين يا غياث المستغيثين يا غياث المستغيثين يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين وإله العالمين أفتراك سبحانك إلهي وبحمدك تسمع في صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفتي وضاقت عذابها بمعصيتي وحبس بين أطباقها بجرمه وجريرته وهو يضج إليك ضجيجا معملا لرحمتك ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك يا مولاي فكيف يبقي في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك أم كيف تعلمه النار وهو يعمل فضلك ورحمتك أم كيف يحرق لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانها أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم أضعافه أم كيف يتقلقل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقه أم كيف تزجر زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا رب أم كيف يرجو فضلك في إتقه منها فتتركه فيها هيهات ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك ولا مشبه لما عملت بالموحدين من برك وإحسانك فباليقين أقطعوا لو لم حكمت به من تعظيم جاهديك وقضيت أو به من إخلاد معانديك لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما وما كان لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما لكنك وتقدست أسماعك أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين، وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين، وأن تجلسنا وقلت مبتدعا، وتطولت بالأنعام متقربا، أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستحون. إلهي وسيدي، وأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها، وبالقضية التي حتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها، أن تحب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمته، وكل ذنب أذنبته، وكل قبيح أسررته، وكل جهل عملته، كتمته أو أعلنته، وخفيته أو أظهرته، وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني، وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جباره، وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم، والشاهد لما خفي عنهم، وبرحمتك خفيت وبفضلك سترت، وأن توفر حظي من كل خير تنزله، أو إحسان تفضله، أو بر تنشره، أو رزق تبسطه، أو ذنب تغفره، أو خطأ تستره، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي مالك رقي، يا من بيده ناصيتي، يا عليما بضري ومسكنتي، يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، أسألك بحقك وقدسك وأعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي في الليل والنهار بذكرك معمورا، وبخدمتك موصولا، وأعمالي إنك مقبولا، حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا، وحالي في خدمتك والسرمدا، يا سيدي يا من عليه معولي، يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، قوي على خدمتك جواره، وأشدل على عزيمة جوانه، وهب لي الجد في خشيتك، وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في اتصال بخدمتك، حتى أسرع إليك في ميادين السابقين، وأسرع إليك في المبادرين، وأشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين، وأدنو منك دنو المخلصين، وخافك مخافة الموقنين، وأجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين، اللهم ومن أرادني بالسوء فرد، ومن كادني فكد، واجعلني من أحسان عبيدك نسيبا عندك، وقر بهم منزلة من، وخصهم زلفة لديك، فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك، وجد لي بجودك، وعاطف علي بمجدك، واحفظني برحمتك، واجعل لساني بذكرك لحجا وقلبي بحبك متيما ومن علي بحسن إجابتك وقلي حسرتي واغفر زلتي فإنك قضيت على عبادك بعبادتك وأمرتهم بدعائك وضمنت لهم الإجابة فإليك يا ربي نسبت وجهي وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي فبعزتك أستجب لدعائي وبلغني منايا ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي وأكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء فإنك فعالا لما تشاء يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء وطاعته غنى أرحم من راسه ماله الرجاء وسلاه البقاء يا صابغ النعم يا دافع النقام يا نور المستوحشين في الظلام يا عالما لا يعلم صل على محمد وآل محمد وافعل بما أنت أهله وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وجل.
اللهم صل على محمد.
السلام عليكم شيخ.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Can you hear me properly?
Yes, I can. بسم الله.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. الخطبة 28. ألا وإنه من لا ينفعه الحق يضره الباطل ومن لا يستقيم به الهدى يجر به الضلال إلى الردى. Khutbah number 28. Inshallah, this will be our last session on this khutbah. That khutbah that Sayyid al-Radi says is as good as it gets when it comes to the khutbah. And he says the best utterance to get someone away from dunya towards akhirah and so on. Now, I don't have to speak about how dunya itself, in and of itself, isn't evil, and matter in and of itself isn't evil. It's the way we look at it that causes the main problem. But anyway, this khutbah is one of those khutbahs that wakes one up, shakes one up to the point that it can change their life. If they read it again and again, it can really have an effect on one's life. We reach this part of the khutbah where the Imam, he says, "Ala wa innahu man la yanfa'uhu al-haq yaduruhu al-batil." Okay, so before this, the Imam was speaking about how he's surprised, he's blown away at the fact that there are people out there who want akhirah but are sleeping and not doing enough for it. And there are some out there who are afraid of Jahannam. So there are some who are in love with Jannah. They want Jannah, they seek Jannah, yet they don't do what they're supposed to for it. And there are some who really, really want to stay away from Jahannam, yet they are also asleep and not doing what they're supposed to do to avoid this Jahannam. Then he comes to this line here. He says, listen, Ala wa innahu man la yanfa'uhu al-haq. There is a haq out there. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit about that. There's a haq out there. A person who the haq does not benefit, yadurruhu al-batil. Batil will hurt them and harm them. This is very important because some might feel that, okay, if I don't go towards haq, what's the big problem? I will still try to stay away from batil. The thing is, where you don't find haq, there is batil. Yeah. In other words, batil equals adamul haq, lack of haq, absence of haq. That's what batil is. We will translate it to falsehood, right? And then it might sound like, okay, we have a truth, we have a falsehood, and we have something in between. In reality, though, there is no in between. Falsehood means something that's not true. If something is not true, it's false. So we have this dualism here. It's either or. So the Imam, he says, whoever the haq doesn't benefit. Question. When the Imam says there are some who the haq won't benefit, does that mean that haq sometimes benefits and then sometimes doesn't benefit? Is that what it's saying? Is there something going on? Is there a catch to haq affecting us and benefiting us, or no, there's no catch? The answer is this wording here might seem to imply that haq doesn't always get the job done. Why? Because it says a person whom the haq does not benefit. Right? It implies that, okay, there are some out there who it won't benefit, and there are some out there who will benefit. But that is not true. This wording here is very normal wording that's used. This is one way um, of saying things. To say that a person who the haq doesn't benefit. In other words, a person doesn't make the most of it, and as a result, the haq that's out there is irrelevant to them, meaning they won't benefit them. Yeah, it's like a prescription. Yeah, there are tons of prescriptions out there. There are tons of medications out there. But if I don't go seek my prescription, don't seek my medication, will that mean that I will get better from an illness that I might be suffering from? The answer is no. Right? Just because it's out there doesn't mean it'll benefit you. You have to seek it. And if it doesn't benefit you in the end, it's because you didn't seek it. That's the same here with haq. Haq will benefit those who seek it. In other words, when the Imam is saying the one who the haq doesn't benefit, what he means is the one who never went after the haq the way they were supposed to. As a result, they didn't benefit from that haq. That haq, no benefit came from that haq to them. Okay? He says that if you are not benefiting from the haq, then you can be sure that batil is harming you. And this is an example that I always use, the treadmill. And I'll use it again. If you're standing on a treadmill, the treadmill, you either run or you fall. You can't just say, you know what, I'm not in the mood of running, but I don't want to fall either. I just want to stand. No, the treadmill is going to eventually throw you off, right? Unless you run back. Yeah. Opposite to the way the direction the belt on it is turning. So that's just how it is with the treadmill. This is how it's going to be with life, brothers and sisters. Allah isn't going to waste his time, our time, his time. I'm speaking figuratively when I say his time. He's not going to make creation in vain for people to come here and not, either just stand in the middle and nothing happens. No. You have to either benefit from haq or else it's all batil. And batil is going to harm you. All right. وَمَنْ لَا يَسْتَقِيمُ بِهِ الْهُدَى يَجُرُّ بِهِ الضَّلَالُ إِلَى الرَّدَى. That whoever huda and guidance, yes, doesn't take care of and doesn't put them on the right track and path, misguidance will take them towards destruction. Once again, you have either or here. There is no third option. All right, so we're supposed to have to go after haq. We're supposed to seek al-huda and guidance. Or else all you have is batil and dalala. Now a question here will be, what is haq? What do you mean by haq? Well, in this book, in this culture, in this tradition of Islam, haq equals that which, anything that has to do with Allah and His satisfaction. That is haq. Wherever you have haq, that's Allah. Wherever you don't have haq, you have lack and absence of Allah. The Quran says, سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقِّ. That we're going to show the people our signs in the horizons and in themselves We will show our signs in the horizons and within the people themselves. If they look within them, they'll find signs of God in them. So what happens? And so that it becomes clear and manifest that Allah is the Haqq. Anything that has Allah in it, to the amount that it has Allah in it, it is Haqq. Other than that, it is going to be Batil. All right? So, if anyone asks, what is this Haqq that the Imam here is speaking about? It's obvious that it is anything that has to do with Allah and His satisfaction. If a path has Allah in it, then that is as-siratul mustaqim. If a path doesn't have Allah in it, then that is not as-siratul mustaqim. Yeah? Inna Rabbi ala siratin mustaqim, the Quran says that my Lord is on the straight path. So if you want to gauge where haqq is, where sirat mustaqim is, where all that is, you have to see if Allah is there. How do I know Allah is there? If Allah's satisfaction is there. How do I know what His satisfaction lies in? In the awamir and nawahi, the commands that He has issued for me and humanity. So if I'm going by that which He wants me to go by, His satisfaction is there. In other words, He is there, and when He's there, haqq is there. All right. The Imam continues. He says, "Ala wa innakum qad umirtum bil-dha'ni wa duliltum ala zad." He says, listen, once again, Ala, listen. Verily, you all have been burdened with migration. Okay, dha'n, migration, to migrate. You've been burdened with this. That means it's one of your takalif. It's something that Allah has imposed on you. You have been ordered to migrate. Umirtum bil-dha'n. Okay. وَدُلِلْتُمْ عَلَى الزَّادِ, and you have been guided to that which is your provisions for this migration. So it's not fair, kind of, if they tell you to migrate, but they don't show you the path. They don't show you what to take with you on this journey and migration. Sometimes, though, they will tell you that it's time to go, and they will teach you exactly what you need to do and where and what you need to take with you as provision. Right? Think about it. You order something online, some device, and it comes in the mail, but there is no instruction manual to go with it. Okay. Now this thing, this object, this item that has come and that you want to use now, you have to use it, right? Okay, makes sense. I ordered it. I ordered it. I need it. It's for my benefit. I have to use it. But the one who sent it to me to benefit me has to also send an instruction manual with it. So here it says, it's as if Allah is saying, I brought you here for migration, right? I brought you here for migration because that's how you will benefit. Okay, Allah, I want to benefit from this migration. How do I? What provision should I take? If He doesn't tell us, then that's a problem. But He says, وَدُلِلْتُمْ عَلَى الزَّادِ. Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam, he says, and you have also been guided to and instructed what you're supposed to take as provision with you. Yes. So this migration, what kind of migration is it? What's it talking about? Of course, it's obvious what it's talking about. Talking about what verses of the Quran keep reminding us of again and again and again. Surah Al-Imran, verse 185. كُلُّ نَفْسٍ ذَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ. Imam Ali alayhi salam says, إِنَّكُمْ قَدْ أُمِرْتُمْ بِالظَّعْنِ. When he says that you have been burdened with migration. This is something that you have to do. He doesn't specify. He doesn't put and draw any lines between different groups of people and say, you're the ones who have to migrate. He says, all of you, everybody will have to migrate one day. Okay, so everyone. Let's see what the Quran says about everyone. It says, كُلُّ نَفْسٍ ذَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ. Every person will taste death. Okay, so over there it says everyone has to migrate. Here it says everyone has to taste death. So this migration is the migration of from this life to another life. It is the migration of death, the migration of maut. Surah Nisa, verse 78. أَيْنَمَا تَكُونُوا يُدْرِكْكُمُ الْمَوْتُ وَلَوْ كُنْتُمْ فِي بُرُوجٍ مُشَيَّدَةٍ. Wherever you are, maut will reach you and find you. Death will find you. Everybody. وَلَوْ كُنْتُمْ فِي بُرُوجٍ مُشَيَّدَةٍ. Even if you are in the most strongest and firmest of fortresses, death will find you. This is that migration. أُمِرْتُمْ بِالظَّعْنِ. So here when it says أُمِرْتُمْ بِالظَّعْنِ, that Allah has done an amr to you, has commanded you to migrate. This shows that this is not your normal everyday legislative amr and command. It's not your everyday tashri'i command. The same way Allah says, I order you to pray, I order you to fast. At the end of the day, when Allah tells us to pray or fast, it's up to us. It's our choice to do so or not. This is referred to as these commands that we can do or not do. It's up to us. Are commands that are referred to as tashri'i, legislative. They have to do with legislation, with do's and don'ts and laws, Islamic legal theory. But then there are some commands of Allah that Allah commands that have to do with our creation, with life and death, and so on and so forth, with cause and effect. Those are not contingent on our decision, our choice, our free will. No, 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 no. So here when Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he says, Umirtum bil-dha'n, that you have been commanded to migrate. It's not like the command that we have for salat. It means that you are going to taste it no matter what. It's going to come upon you. It's going to it's going to befall you whether you like it or not. And that's what these verses of the Quran are saying. أَيْنَمَا تَكُونُوا يُدْرِكُمُ الْمَوْتِ وَلَوْ كُنْتُمْ فِي بُرُوجٍ مُشَيَّدَةٍ. Even in the strongest and most firm fortresses, death will find you. إِنَّكَ مَيِّتٌ وَإِنَّهُمْ مَيِّتُونَ. O Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you are going to die and they will also die. Everyone. That was Surah Zumar verse 30. And then Surah Qasas verse 88 says, كُلُّ شَيْءٍ هَالِكٌ إِلَّا وَجْهَهُ. Everything will perish except the face of Allah, which here face of God represents God himself. Okay, so this migration that Amir al-Mu'mineen is speaking about, it is death. The same way Amir al-Mu'mineen, he doesn't distinguish between different people. He says everyone has been ordered to migrate. These verses talk about everyone having to die. So what does Amir al-Mu'mineen mean by migration? He means death by it. So that's that. But then he says, وَدُلِلْتُمْ عَلَى الزَّادِ. Right? That's also something we need to talk about as well. There's also another part of Nahjul Balagha that Amir al-Mu'mineen uses kind of the same wording and the same, he gets the same notion across as well. I skipped that. Here he says, أُمِرْتُمْ بِالظَّعْنِ وَدُلِلْتُمْ عَلَى الزَّادِ. You've been commanded to migrate and that you've been shown the provision. Somewhere else, he kind of, sends across the same message. He says, تَجَهَّزُوا. This is very famous. تَجَهَّزُوا رَحِمَكُمُ اللَّهِ فَقَدْ نُودِيَ فِيكُمْ بِالرَّحِيلِ. تَجَهَّزُوا means to prepare for something, to take provision for something. He says, may God have mercy on all of you. Take provision, prepare yourselves. Why? فَقَدْ نُودِيَ فِيكُمْ. Because there's a call amongst you. I can hear it. What is that call calling you towards? نُودِيَ فِيكُمْ بِالرَّحِيلِ. Rahil means trip, journey. So in this khutbah, number 28, he refers to it as dha'an, which is migration. But in khutbah 204, he refers to it as rahil, journey. Same thing almost. Yes? Same thing almost. So it's like he's saying I can hear the bells ringing for this train that's about to get moving towards akhirah. I hear it. A person who wants to jump in the train, are they going to jump in the train, in the plane, in the car for a trip without taking proper provision, or are they going to take what they need to take? They're going to take what they need to take. So it's a very, very serious matter. I don't know. we hear these things a lot, and it becomes normal. We kind of become insensitive and numb to it. But this is reality. There is no turning back. Once you're in the train, there is no leaving the train. The train is on its way towards the destination, brothers and sisters. I mean, when are we going to wake up and take things more seriously? That's why the Imam in this part of the khutbah, which I mentioned from khutbah 204, Tajahazu rahimakumullah, he says, Tajahazu rahimakumullah. This is very important. He's saying it as a father to us. Okay, he feels sorry for us, as if. That's why he says, may Allah have mercy on you. He says, may Allah have mercy on you. Wake up, get ready for this journey. I can hear the bells. I can hear them chiming, and you're still asleep. Wake up. Somewhere else he says, for example, I really like the idea of how different parts of Nahjul Balagha you'll find, and even in the Quran, you'll find how this journey of death is referred to as a journey, as a migration. Here in Khutbah 183 also, we have another similar wording. He says, وَأَنْتُمْ بَنُوا سَبِيلٍ عَلَى سَفَرٍ مِنْ دَارٍ لَيْسَتْ بِدَارِكُمْ. I'm in love with these words. I really love the wording that the Imam uses. It says, you are all antum banu sabilin. You are all people of a path, of a road, right? That means what? That means you are travelers. That's what the Imam says. You are travelers. Banu sabilin. Okay? So what does a banu sabil have to do? What does a banu sabil have to expect? Where they are migrating from, is that their permanent residence and abode? No, it's going to be temporary. That's why he says, ala safarin. You are people of a road, and you are on a journey now, safar, from a home, min darin, from a home, laysat bidarikum. It's not even your home. Yeah, I mean, those of you who travel a lot for work, those of you who might lecture here and there. When you travel, what happens? You usually stay at someone's house, or they'll get you a hotel room. Yeah. Sometimes the hotel, I mean, not sometimes, when you go in, the hotel room is pretty spick and span, and it's clean, and it's just a good experience. People like it. But no one will put all their eggs in that basket of that hotel room and act as if like, this is where I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here forever. No, because they know 2 days later they're leaving. This is not their home. This is not what you would call home. And so here it says, you are people of a path, of a road, yeah, of a certain route. Okay, you have a plan. You have something coming up. You're on a trip, ala safarin, from a home that's not even your home. وَقَدْ أُذِنْتُمْ مِنْهَا بِالْإِرْتِحَالِ. And now that you're on this little trip, right? Or you're about to embark on this trip, you've been made aware that there's a trip coming up, and that you're going to have to pack your bags and go. وَأُمِرْتُمْ مِنْهَا فِيهَا بِالزَّادِ. And that's why you have been ordered to take provision for this trip. You see, in all of these different places, right now we're in Khutbah 28. Okay? Khutbah 28. Khutbah 204, same thing. Khutbah 183, same thing. Okay? In all of these, the Imam refers to it as a journey. Let's look at it as a journey then. Brothers and sisters, let's think about these things a little bit, reflect on them, and actually believe that, yes, this is what it is. So I'm not going to compromise on the destination that I'm moving towards. So these are all the verses of the Quran and the Hadiths. They are all talking about this journey. Okay, what about the provision? We also have verses of Quran and some of the Nahjul Balagha excerpts that I already shared with you that talk about Zad and provision. The most famous of them is in Surah Baqarah verse 197, where it says, وَتَزَوَّدُوا فَإِنَّ خَيْرَ الزَّادِ التَّقْوَى. A people, تَزَوَّدُوا, take zad for yourselves. Take provision for yourselves. Who in their right mind travels without taking provision? Even if you're going on a picnic, you're gonna take stuff with you, right? It just doesn't make sense. Tazawwadu, take zad. Well, oh Allah, what is the best zad that I can have? What is the best provision that I can have? فَإِنَّ خَيْرَ الزَّادِ التَّقْوَى. The best provision you can take for yourself there isn't the food, yeah, isn't things that you collect here. There's this video I was watching years ago of a guy collecting sneakers for himself. And I've talked about this here and there before too. It's just crazy. He's like, in our culture, when we die, we take whatever we have accumulated of belongings here in this world with us, and they bury it with us. So, like, he had buried like a whole sneaker collection, like I don't know how many pairs of sneakers, with his brother who had passed away. This is exactly what we don't have in the Islamic tradition. We don't take any of this world with us. The only thing we take from this world with us is the actions, and the best of actions and provisions is taqwa. Taqwa means to be wary of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to have fear of Allah. And in reality, it's not fear of Allah, it's fear of the consequences of my own actions. My actions, good or bad, are what translate into punishment and reward on the Day of Judgment. So in reality, it's not God that we should fear. In reality, we should fear our own actions. Anyway, a person who fears God because of his own or her own actions, they have taqwa. If a person has real fear of Allah, what they do is that they make sure whatever they do is in accordance with Allah's satisfaction and commands. Very simple. This is what constitutes taqwa, inshallah. Easier said than done, of course. The Quran here says that is the best provision. Like when I get angry at my mom or dad, or at my wife or husband or children or whatever, I make sure, getting angry is fine, but I make sure that I control that anger. This is just an example of taqwa, brothers and sisters. It doesn't matter how good you are outside with others. If you cannot manage and control your anger, that's going to hurt your taqwa. And that means you are hurting your provision. You are taking rotten food with you on this little journey and picnic that you're going to be on. Well, it's going to be a long picnic, by the way, Day of Judgment. Long. But you get the point I'm trying to make here. And so on and so forth. Tons and tons of examples of wajib and haram that taqwa will dictate we observe because we fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We fear the Day of Judgment. There's nothing wrong with that. Another verse that lets us know what we're supposed to take with us to the other side. It says, and this is Surah Shu'ara, verses 88 to 89. And this is also the verse that Imam Ali in his munajat, he recites in Masjid of Kufa. The one that says, Mawlaya ya Mawlaya. It says, the Quran says, يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. That on that day is the day that no wealth and no children, in other words, no assets, nothing that you had in this life is going to be of benefit to you, except the ones who come to Allah with a sound heart. That's what the verse says. We don't want to get too much into tafsir here, but they will tell you that a sound heart is that heart that had Allah in it. Yes. How do I bring Allah into my heart though? Answer, by following His commands. The more I follow His commands, the more my heart makes room for Him versus others. But if I don't care about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands, His commands, if I don't care for His commands, how can I have Him in my heart still? Yeah, this is practical spirituality, practical irfan, you can even call it. Yeah, to bring Allah into the heart and not leave room for anything else, Allah's satisfaction has to be the number one thing on my list and the only thing on my list. And slowly He will push everything else out of my heart. It might take some time. It's not something that happens with the snap of a finger or overnight. Nope. It takes time. And that's why we have these long lives in this life. Now, someone who lives a short life, that's a different story. And the measuring stick for them will be different. The ones who live a long life here, Allah's giving us that chance to work on ourselves. No one gets ripped, as they say, okay, and in shape and toned overnight. It's a long process. Yeah. And the same thing with spiritual growth and spiritual wayfaring. But if a person is able to continue the path of Allah and securing the satisfaction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through their actions that are in accordance with the wajib and haram of Allah, slowly Allah will sit in their heart. And when Allah sits in their heart, this heart is a sound heart now. Why? Because it has become the abode of haqq. As I said in the beginning of our session, haqq equals Allah, Allah equals haqq, right? And so the heart that has Allah in it is gonna be the heart that has haqq in it, truth in it. That means there is no falsehood. No falsehood equals it is healthy. So this 2 verses now that are telling us. One told us taqwa, another one said Allah being in the heart, the qalb salim, the sound heart, which translated to a person who has taqwa. Another verse number 46 of Surah Kahf. Al-malu wal-banun zinatul hayat ad-dunya wal-baqiyatu as-salihatu khayrun 'inda rabbika thawaban wa khayrun amala. That wealth and children, again, assets, let's say, these are the good things of this world. That means what? That means their expiration date is my death date. The same day I die and my hayat ad-dunya ends is when the goodness of all my assets, my estate, my wealth, my children ends for me. Right? So this, you can call it the expiration date verse. It is putting an expiration date on anything of this dunya that's pleasurable, that's good, that I like, that I'm attached to. All right? If these things, these assets, belong to dunya, that means whenever the dunya ends for me, they will end for me too. Okay? That is just so awesome. That death puts an end to everything that's just not worth it. Yeah. Through things ending, through death, I can tell what really deserves my attention a lot or not. Death is awesome, brothers and sisters. Death is that measuring stick by which we can figure out how much anything is worth. Just because it'll end upon death doesn't mean it has no value at all and I shouldn't pursue it at all. Death just reminds me how much I should pursue something. Okay? If I know that, let's just say like one of these major supermarkets is having a sale, right? Or when you go to these supermarkets, they'll have that clearance aisle, right? And they will have marked down a lot of their goods and food stuff. But when you look at the expiration date on it, right, you find that it's gonna expire in 2 days, 1 day or something, right? You're like, okay, I'll take some of this, but it's not something I'm gonna lose sleep over either. It's not like if they tell me there's a sale on chicken that's gonna go bad in 2 days, I'm gonna like go all out trying to make it to that sale. Yeah, if the chicken is fresh and there's a huge markdown, then that's something worth it, because the expiration date is farther out. Expiration dates, we just hate them because they just tell us that how much is worth. If I know that things are going to expire in this life for me eventually, 50 years, 60 years, but I have eternity before me after that, how much importance am I going to give it to 50, 60 years versus infinity? Brothers and sisters, those of you who are like in math and stuff, like what's going on here. Like no matter how big the number, infinity is something else. It's like Anything opposite to infinity is zero, as if. And then let alone 60 years. Put 1,000,000 years in front of infinity. It's still not worth it. And we're talking 50, 60 years, man. Oh my God. Like, that's not worth it. It's not worth it for me to compromise on my eternity for something like that. So that's why death is just so awesome in that sense, that just reminds us how much importance we're supposed to give certain things. Al-mal wal-banun zinatul hayat ad-dunya. Mal and banun, their expiration date is death. They belong to dunya, and so when dunya ends, their value ends for you. وَالْبَاقِيَاتُ الصَّالِحَاتُ خَيْرٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ ثَوَابًا وَخَيْرٌ أَمَلًا. But those things that remain of the good and righteous deeds, once again, what does that translate to? Satisfaction of Allah. Why is something considered a good deed? Because it entails the satisfaction of Allah. Not the satisfaction of people necessarily. Sometimes it entails the satisfaction of people too. When I help somebody who's in need, I have brought about their satisfaction and Allah's satisfaction. But sometimes certain things that I do might not necessarily entail people's satisfaction. It's all good. Why? Because what matters is Allah's satisfaction. If Allah's satisfaction is there, even if the entire universe is dissatisfied, it doesn't matter. Okay? So anyway, as-salihat, what makes an act a righteous one? The fact that it entails Allah's satisfaction. So as you can see, these three verses that we went through so far, they're all in line with each other. Different wording is used, but they all go back to the same thing. One said taqwa, one said qalbun salim, and one says baqiyatul salihat. So the verse says al-baqiyatul salihat, those good deeds that will remain, khayrun 'inda rabbik. They are better when it comes to the rewards that they yield for you, when it comes to the hope that they can inspire into you. All of this with the Lord, right? عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ ثَوَابًا وَخَيْرٌ أَمَلًا. When it comes to your Lord, these are better. Okay. Both reward-wise and hope-wise. All right, so Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam here in this part of the khutbah, when he says, أَلَا وَإِنَّكُمْ قَدْ أُمِرْتُمْ بِالضَّعْنِ وَدُلِلْتُمْ عَلَى الزَّادِ, verses of the Quran, other parts of Nahjul Balagha are echoing the same notion, that it is a journey and there is a need for provision, and that the directions for these provisions have been provided for the people. Okay, from here on, the Imam moves on into another discussion that I don't want to start, because if I start it, it's going to take a while. I wanted to finish tonight's khutbah, but it looks like we're going to have to leave the last part, because there's a lot of explanation there as well that I want to give, and a lot of other verses of the Quran and hadiths maybe that I want to cover as well to really open up the topic. So I will leave it for our next session. Inshallah, in our next session, the Imam, he speaks about two things: ittiba'ul hawa wa tulul amal, following one's desires and having high, far-fetched hopes. Is it bad to have hope? Is it bad to have high hopes? Is it bad to shoot for the stars? Are these bad? What's the Imam saying here? These are things that we need to talk about, inshallah. And very clearly, our sources and scripture have illustrated what is meant by these two, what the limits are, what the scope is, and how dangerous it can be, why it can be dangerous. All of these things we'll discuss in our next session. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. And salams to Sister Zainab, Brother Khurshid, and Agha Farid. Thank you all for tuning in. Keep us in your du'as. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.